Hello and welcome to On Air with Owen. Me, Owen Richards, founder and CEO of Air Marketing, your go-to for outsourced B2B sales and marketing, and my new co-host, fellow business owner and great friend, Neil Finnie.
Hey everyone, Neil Finnie here, founder of the Generator Work Hub, a co-working space here in the beautiful Exeter, and also Next Gen Careers, a professional development program nurturing the talents of tomorrow.
Each week, we'll be diving into the everyday truths around running your own business. And trust me, we're not sugarcoating anything. It's all about the highs, the lows, and everything between when you run your own business as a founder.
Expect candid conversations and valuable insights between the two of us. Plus, we'll be joined by some special guests along the way.
So, time to sit back and tune in to this week's honest conversation.
Hi guys, here we are again. Welcome to another episode of On Air. I can't even speak. That's a good start, isn't it? On Air with me, Owen Richards, and my co-host, Mr. Neil Finnie. How are you, Mr. Neil Finnie?
Good. Always good. Always good.
Always good.
How are you?
Love to hear that. Yeah, I'm very well. Very well indeed. Thank you. Very well. I'm a little bit annoyed though. We'll go on to that in a minute. A bit of a frustrating day, or a couple of things frustrated me in the business yesterday. But as an overall, right now, I'm a 9.5 out of 10, which I think is a pretty good score.
What do you normally sit at? What's your normal?
I would say I float between 6 and 10 most of the time. I'm pretty lucky. I think you, like anybody, you have the odd day here and there where I don't feel right, but I'd say I'm a pretty optimistic, positive.
I can't see
person.
you're sitting on 6 very often.
No, probably not. Probably not. Yeah,
I think you're between
good.
a 7. You're between a 7.5 and a 9.5. I think most of the time.
Yeah, I'd say that's reasonable. Definitely on the outside. Definitely on the outside.
I think massaging your ego. Look at that.
Yeah.
Only just started.
I don't know if it's a skill to be happy though. It's just the disposition you have, isn't it? So no, I don't. You know, one of the things that I'm blessed with is that I don't overthink it. I don't overthink much, to be honest. But I think that really helps because
I think
don't get dragged into things too much.
I think that is definitely a skill to have. I'm exactly the same. Like definitely, and Liz hates it. The fact that I can go to bed and within about a minute I'm asleep because I'm not overthinking things. Don't worry about things. I think we said about this before. Whereas she will overthink and will think, and she's far smarter than me, far smarter. And I think there's an element of that where you think too much, it plays on you. So yeah, us
It hurts,
not saying we're non-thinkers, but it's definitely something to say for that because I'm sure I sit at an 8.5 most of the time. I'm fairly happy most of the time.
Yeah, and look, I think it's I don't practice anything like this, but you hear about people doing this, like writing down the things they're grateful for and that sort of stuff. And I think although I don't work like that, I'm pretty good at recognizing that I'm flipping lucky to have what I have, and there's a lot to be grateful for, and there's a lot of things that make me happy, and acknowledging that that you can get caught up looking at the imperfections and worrying about them, and of course they're there for me too, just like they are for you and everyone else, but you choose the angle that you look at life with, and I tend to look at the good things and look at the things that are positive more than the things that are negative, and it doesn't mean they're not there. Just I think wired in a way where I'm able to do that most of the time, not all the time, most of the time. So what are you out of 10? I'm a 9.5 today.
I think I'm just normal 8.5. I think it's been good. Nothing. It's nice chatting here. I've had a nice meeting with. I'm off to Lisbon on Sunday, so the team that we're working with out there, got to know a few of them, which is good. So I'm looking forward to that. Just got back from Rome last week. Rena's back in the Generator, so the life life is much better. So I'm sure Liz is very much appreciative of Rena being back. We're progressing in the Euros. So
life's good. So, my goal is to get you from an 8.5 to a 9 in the next half an hour. There we go. Just by us talking all things business. Although, having said that, I'm going to have a whinge. I'm going to start it with a whinge. Yeah, it's necessary. No, I want to get your take on this, and it'd be interesting to get listeners' views on this as well. So, we talked a couple of weeks ago about in office in-person, Teams calls, the difference between them. Recently, and I'm going to be really cautious to not name names here because it's, you know, current business stuff. Recently, we've had scenarios where we've had clients who are thinking of working with us come to the office, and they want to come and see us and meet people and get a feel for the culture. And obviously it's a very different experience nowadays, right? So we used to do that in pre-2020, and you'd have a full office every day. Any day they came, it didn't matter. Everyone was dressed reasonably smartly, you know, looking like they were going to work. Nowadays, a lot more informal from a dress perspective, which I welcome, and with a hoodie on, of course. And we're 2 days a week generally. Some of the business are wider afield, so they can't be in the office regularly. They come in once a month or once a quarter, depending on a couple of factors. But generally, the majority of the business, 2/3, 3/4, are reasonably local and have to be in the office 2 days a week as a minimum. And then it's kind of flexible around that. I put a request into people to say, look, this particular week we've got 2 very important client visits. They don't happen very often. We're talking like once a quarter maybe. They just happen to be in the same week, so they're 2 days apart. And could we be in the office on that day? Really appreciate it if everyone was in the office. And it's amazing to see the breadth of response to that. So, you know, we wanted everyone in the office. You want people there, right? I want to make the best impression. I want them to walk in and go, wow, this is amazing. You can hear all these people on the phone talking and selling. You can do this for us. So you want to have as many bodies in there as possible, and you want people looking smart-ish. You know, not saying look like you're going to a wedding. Don't put your tux on, but look like you're going to work. And we have people put a suit on, look smart, be in when they wouldn't normally be in on that day, in early, ready to go, really making the effort, all the way through to people who made the decision they couldn't come in because they had a delivery that day. Amazon might be turning up with something. And I don't know, it's one of those things where you see the best of humans who really get it. They really understand the impact that can have on a business. You know, these contract opportunities could create jobs. They could, both for new jobs in our organization en masse, but also promotion opportunities, new roles within the business that are created as a result of this. These opportunities, they're not just having an impact on their business, they're having an impact on their teammates and the people around them, potential impacts. And yeah, on the other hand, you've got people that are just desperate and will do anything to see the business move forwards, and they'll play their role in that, and they'll go above and beyond. It's just fascinating to see, because the bee in my bonnet bit is surely you could get neighbours to take a delivery. Surely they could leave it on the doorstep, or it could just be delivered another day. Is it as important as trying our best to win that opportunity and have the biggest impact possible on that experience of that client? But maybe their perspective on that is different and coming from a different angle. And as an owner of business, very hard for you to look at it from the view other than, hey, what's best for the business? Go on, what's your take on it?
No, well, I think it's really difficult. I think it's really difficult for a number of reasons. Like, number one, I don't know the full background. So how much time do people have to rearrange things? Like, are you saying 24 hours before? Like, how much time?
No, I'm saying 10 days. 10 days. I told everybody this will be happening.
Okay, so on day 10, you know, how was it said to the team in terms of the importance of this client coming in? You know, was it a sit down with the whole team? Was it an email shot that went out? Was it their line managers that had the conversation? You know, how aware were people of the importance of this?
Line managers were asked to communicate it, and then there was an all staff email sent by me to the business requesting that, and with the context of value of contract, the number of roles that opportunity could create within the business. So all of the stuff I shared with you, I put that into a note to the entire business. Doing it live on a call as a whole business is hard, right? Because you'll always miss people. So that way, line managers talking to people about it when they're in their sessions means that everybody gets covered, and then a centralized written communication that explains why, what we're going to cover on the day, why we'd love people to be there, the impact that has, and the commercial impact of us winning those contracts, you know, what that would be. And I tried to emphasize, just so like I have with you in advance, you know, this creates opportunities for new people to come in the business and creates jobs, good for the business, but also opportunities for new roles within the organization for potentially existing people to step into. So yeah, you try and make people realize that they're accountable for contributing.
It's really tough, isn't it? Because I think you can't, like, I don't know. Can you make it mandatory? Is that legally? Can you say you have to be in? Because you already give a lot of flexibility with the hybrid work. You say, look, for this day, it is no excuses. You come in. You need to be in for this. This is the dress code. This is what you need to wear. This is what you need to do. If there's some sort of issue that you have, like you have childcare or you've got something, like realistically, I would imagine if they're working on that day, they're working from home, but they shouldn't have other commitments per se. So it's not like they're going somewhere or they're working from somewhere else. So it should be, I guess, within reason to expect someone to come into the office. So I would expect that that's something that could be pushed from an organizational point of view, that this is non-negotiable. You are in for this day. This is what we need to do, because it's for the benefit of for the company.
Look, I think HR specialists write into us and let us know, or comment on on this episode and let us know on LinkedIn. My understanding of that, and I'm applying common sense law here against things like looking at employment contracts, is I think we can ask people to work from any other place as requested by the company within reason, right? So under their contract, we have the right to say, you've got to go to this client meeting there, or you've got to do this, or you've got to do that. And I don't think coming to the office is a particularly unreasonable request for somebody who already does that twice a week anyway as part of their work contract. So I do think we could, with advance notice, make it mandatory. I mean, putting law aside, on the basis that you can't really legally enforce it, can you? It's a breach of contract for employment, maybe at worst case, rather than law. It's I don't know what your take is on this, but my view is you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't.
No. So it's, look, I think this was the other thing, is that you and I definitely are more carrot, less stick. I don't believe that should ever be the way. But it's an interesting one, and again, I don't know individuals involved, but is it that they've not been with the company that long? Is it someone like they're a senior position? Sure. And I think all of these things work in, because you've got a big organization. There's a lot of people there, and for some people, I don't know. It could just be a paycheck. You get those people that's like, I get a paycheck at the end of the day. I do my 9 to 5. Do I care about the bigger picture? No. I'm just in it to pay my mortgage, pay my rent, earn some money, which happens, I guess, as bigger organizations grow. And I think someone said to me that companies over the size of like 7 people, you start losing the kind of cultural element of people want to be there because they really believe in the organization and they really believe in what they're doing. It's also harder to manage. But you're right. Like, you would hope that everyone has that same view of, this is not just good for me. It's not just good for the company. It's good for the people that are around me, my colleagues. And I think you start becoming a bit of an outlier. And I don't think that's good for the.
But is this about people understanding? Of course it's not, because this is about understanding. Even if you took this back to which I think is a very valid argument, by the way, this person has a really simple agenda. Their agenda is to come in, pay the mortgage, get the paycheck, go home. Right? They don't care about the success of the business. They don't attach to it. I mean, look, I would argue, if somebody was genuinely that way inclined, do we really want that person in the business? Because we're a people business where the service we deliver is people's time and skills. I'm not sure that aligns with our culture and our values very well, and we want to be recruiting on values. So, that I'm not convinced by that, but let's take it at face value. Surely that person, and this is a question rather than a statement, surely that person can connect that for them to get a better pay rise, the business needs to be doing well, right? So if the business is not performing well, then it's very hard for you to go, we're going to give everybody really healthy pay rises, because financially you might not have the money to do that. If the business is performing well and the profit is there, in a small business in particular, it's an owner-led. It's not like we've got millions of pounds of funding from investment companies or VCs. And people know the business that they've joined. If the business is performing well, there is better opportunity for people to move forwards, and surely even that person can attach to that.
Really, I don't know.
No,
I don't know.
why? Do they not think like you and I?
No, I don't. I don't think so. I think there's an element of this, and we didn't see it with our team during, let's say, during COVID and especially the cost of living crisis, where there was an expectation. We heard this from a lot of owners and a lot of founders that cost of living goes up. There's an expectation that, oh, you know what, I need more money. I want more money. It's like, well, hold on. Us as a business, our margins are actually being squeezed.
Yeah,
we don't have any more money. Our energy costs, our overheads have gone up. We can't really push our prices up because then we're going to lose some of our clients, our customers. But there's that expectation of, oh, well, we just need. No, you're not understanding the mechanics of the business here in terms of what's working and what's not. And I think there is a disconnect. And again, I don't know. It's really difficult for me to understand that. But again, I've spoken to friends who are like, oh, I can't believe I've only got a 5% increase. It's like, I got any sort of increase.
That's a lot. Yeah.
It's like, I'm not getting an increase. No. The business isn't doing any better. The business is doing worse, but we understand that, you have got increased living costs, and we want to try and support you in this way. So I think there is a disconnect between what it means to be an employee. And I'm not saying for every employee, there's a lot that do understand, and, and that's why people will turn up, dress smart, because they understand the business and they want to do well within the business, and they also want the business to do well. But should you expect people to understand that as well?
Maybe. How do we help them to understand it? Or is it just they are who they are and we just have to accept it? So I mean, this is coming from somebody who really, I haven't really had a proper employment career, right, where I've worked for people, I've been paid a salary, and I've not been making key decisions to run the business, right? I've never been a sort of passenger on a journey, so I've always been in the driving seat since I was 22, 23 years old, which I'm very, very lucky to have had. So I can't understand what it is to be, if you take 100 people in the company, to be, let's say, number 78 on the seniority chart and pay chart. I can't understand what it is to be so disconnected from the decisions and the direction of the company.
I think a lot of it has to do like the education piece around this, and this is a constant thing in terms of the education. And I don't think it's necessarily for those people that say didn't show up, but it's, those people that did show up, are you walking around, fist bumping, not high fiving? We're not in America here, but bringing them to one side saying, "Hey, look,"
fist bumping either.
fist bumping.
Mate, you're nearing your 50s. You need to be careful.
No, I'm never going to do that anymore. Is kind of saying to them, look, you turned up the other day. You don't know how much that meant to me. You wore a suit. You came in smart. You engaged. That to me is phenomenal. And I think sometimes as business leaders, as owners, as senior management, we can ask, but then we don't explain that kind of reason why. It was important that you came like this because it has meant this, and this.
Yeah.
So for that individual that maybe did turn up, he's just reiterating the fact that this was important.
Parenting, isn't it?
I think so, and I think it's also about acknowledging the small stuff. So, for example, we got a group of students in Lisbon, Rome, Barcelona. There's got to be, I think, 200 odd, maybe a bit more students that are joining one of our programs. And one of the things that we get them to do before they join us is to connect with us on LinkedIn, because it's all professionally based. It's all around career design. And out of that 200, there's probably 5 of them that have added a note to the connection request, which I think is great. I think it's that thing that, hey, Abby here, really excited that going to be joining Barcelona. Can't wait to get going with the program. It's a sentence. It's a few words. But for me, that's phenomenal because they're showing strong emotional intelligence, connecting with people in the right way. So I don't ignore that. I get back to them and say, hey, Abby, first of all, thanks for connecting with me. Second, just to let you know, you're in the 5% or 2% or whatever of people that actually add a note and connect in the right way. Great job. Fist bump, high five. But then, because they're like, I didn't know that. I wasn't sure. And I think with stuff and, having that conversation, And again, it would be in their review, and it's, they've got delivery, they've got other things. Maybe it's in their agreement they don't have to turn up for that day, but it's that education piece. It's like, look, this is how I felt, and again, it would have been nice for you to have been there because it means this, and this. So for the next time, I would ask, is there some way that you could have worked around it so you could have been there on that day? Because for you and your development in your career, it could mean a difference to this, and this in terms of a promotion, or even in my eyes, showing. And I think it's those small education pieces that I think are missed in a lot of organizations, because we're so busy, and we've got 360 reviews, and we've got assessments, and they've got HR and everything else. But the nuances in running the business, I think for a lot of people, they don't understand that behind the curtains mechanics of it, and they won't think like that. They'll be like, well, Owen was there, and such was there. The big team was there. I wasn't going to be in a meeting with these, so I'm just not important. But it's really kind of that education piece. But I think again, as you're saying, for you and I and people similar to us, you kind of get it. And I would want to be there anyway. If there's a massive client coming in, I want to be there. I want to be front and center. But not everyone's driven by that, and that's fine. But it's also educating them in terms of, there's no disciplinary here, but this is how I felt. Because you're not a faceless business owner, it's not massive shareholders. It's still you and your business, and I know how much the rest of the Air team means to you, and it's kind of trying to make people part of that and understand the importance. But it's difficult, and it's difficult to know how far as well to encourage individuals to be, they used to say, like the company man, the company woman, or whatever it is, in regards to, you're really bought into the company and you're their best brand ambassador. How much can you mold them and have that expectation that they need to fly the flag of Air or the generator?
I don't think, to be clear, and maybe people will agree with my take on this, and maybe they'll disagree, and I'm all ears, because I think what I'm trying to do is maybe recalibrate here to some degree. But to be fair, I don't think what I am asking people is to be there flying the flag and putting their life on the line for Air. And people joke about those that have been here for years bleed blue. It's running in like a lovely in joke, but you kind of get to the point where you're so ingrained in the business. Fantastic, but you don't need everybody to be like that. And in fact, there's a tipping point where if everyone's too much, you end up with that real kind of almost cult-like business. I've been in businesses like that, as in I've visited businesses like that. You can feel it. It feels weird. So we don't want to go too far with it. But I think there's a minimum standard. And I think more than anything else, I look at it as not necessarily an issue for us as a business, but for them as a professional. It comes back to our point of like, what are your minimum standards as a person? This is you've chosen to be a part of a team. You've chosen to work in a role that requires incredible levels of teamwork and collaboration. You've chosen to be a part of a business where there are multiple parts of what we offer to our clients where they all have to be humming and working together in order for it to be successful. And I assume that people want to be successful. Otherwise, why work in a role like a sales role or a role in marketing? Therefore, I look at it and I think, well, surely that person can identify that this is the right thing for them. Even if it's not for the business, this is a good thing for them to contribute, to move forwards, to be a part of something, because we all want to belong, we all want to contribute, we all want to be successful. And I'm questioning whether I'm being unfair now around this, but it's an interesting topic, isn't it?
Okay, so there's another thing here. So obviously you pay them a salary, but you're paying them for the work that they do. I'm going to try and get this right because I'm just thinking about this. So for them, as long as they're doing their work, you should be happy with that. Anything else that they do,
so in their job description, if it says to be present for client meeting,
if that says that in there, then does it say it in there? I don't know. Maybe not.
I don't know. I've read it for a while, but I would imagine it would say that was part of it when needed. Yeah, I would imagine it's covered in there.
Okay, so maybe it's in there for that. But it's like, well, okay, what's the next step? And you start looking at, it becomes employee owned, where people have more of a financial invested interest into that business. Now, does that change things? So for those companies that are employee owned, is there more commitment or understanding? And maybe there is. I don't know.
If they're just wired a certain way, is that going to change the way they're wired, the way they think? Is it big enough? I don't know.
I'm not sure, but I think it's, how far do you take it? And again, going back to the students that we had, we were looking at their LinkedIn profiles, and universities are great at molding these students into walking billboards of their university. The amount of university students that I looked at the LinkedIn profiles where their header banner was Auburn University, Georgia University, Alabama University, and it was all the same photo, because I think they just give them that and advise them to slap it on as being a student. And it got me thinking about our own teams that say the generate next gen. Is like, I've always felt uncomfortable in asking them in terms of their individual platforms, their profiles, like LinkedIn, to be an ambassador and advocate for what we do. But maybe I should do that more, because actually for the good of the company and the good of what we do, that is going to benefit them. It is going to benefit the business. It's going to benefit everyone as a whole. But it's still difficult when it moves away from their kind of 9-to-5 role, their job spec. But you would hope, again, when we hear from millennials, Gen Z, and I guess I don't know what I am in terms of my generation, but it's about working. Got another great. Is this idea of you work for a company that you share a culture with, and you talk about bleeding blue and everything with their marketing, but you still want to work for a company that you enjoy going into, and you want to help, that you want to be as best as they possibly can, that you take pride in that. So I think, regardless if it's employee owned or not, me as a person, if I'm working for someone else, I would hope that I work for that organization that I really believe in and I want to do well. So I would be willing to don that shirt and suit, tie, whatever.
You don't need to go over the top with it. And this brings me back to my question: is are people just never? Is somebody like that never going to think about it the way that you and I think about it? Because we're never going to think about it the way they think about it, right? We're sitting here now, already demonstrating that. Is somebody like that never going to shift their mindset across because they're not aware of it, they're not conscious of it, they're not able to think that way, they've not had the experiences that allow them to be wired and come to a logical conclusion that that's the right thing to do because their logic is pointing them a different direction. I don't know, because we sit here and we say, well, it's obvious, right? It's obvious that get in there because it's the right thing to do, but that's by our definition of right, isn't it? And that's by our definition of what's good for them and for us as a business. I mean, I still maintain there are lots of reasons why that would have been a good thing, and that was an example, right? You got people with delivery, you got people that I'm sure you got people that like childcare. There's people that, and there's a point where a reason becomes valid, right? And I don't know where it is. That's another great thing, isn't it? What reason is justifiable and what's not. But because again, 2020, 2019, they would either have been in the office working, or they'd have been on a day off. So booking annual leave because you got delivery, fine. But actually working and not being in the place we need you to be because you got delivery, not fine. So how do you differentiate between those two things? Very difficult, and I think we're still working that out. But I think it's never going to think like that.
Is it a sense as well that recently it's been more of an employee labour market? So jobs have been fairly accessible. I think less so now. I think we're seeing a lot of redundancies, a lot of people looking for work. But is it that sense of, well, they need me, that kind of they need me more than I need them? And you obviously have a shift, but if you're very comfortable, you think I can go and find a job elsewhere, or and I think that might shift again, where people are like, actually, it's pretty tough out there, and I'm not going to get that promotion. I'm not going to make that next step. So maybe I'll focus in really making the most here, and it's that kind of self-preservation side of things. So maybe people don't have that at the moment because it's been easy enough to find work in the past. Again, that maybe that's
and
changing.
I guess the amount of organisations that allow for remote working means that the amount of organisations you can apply for a job with now has increased significantly, isn't it? So previously you got to commute into the office. There's only people within a whatever drive or train you're prepared to travel each morning and evening within that distance that you can apply for. So that's there. Now it's actually, I've got the whole country of companies I can potentially apply for, and that means there is more, even if there are fewer roles in the local region, there's more opportunity more widely, and also it's now easier to jump between organizations. So people shift from role to role. There's less cultural connection because they're not in. So we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, where somebody's in the business day to day, every day in the office. They build a relationship with me. They build a relationship with our head of HR. They build a relationship with our commercial director. They get to meet Richard, my business partner, when he's over from Australia, and they're on the journey a lot more closer to the nucleus of what's happening in the business. Whereas I've got people in the business that might have been with us for 2 years, and I might have only met them 2 or 3 times, albeit maybe met them virtually as part of a group outside of that. But they're not on that journey in quite the same way. They're connected to their cohort of people they work with every day, but the wider business, they really don't understand it or feel it or see it as much. Now they still do in their own way, because we're facilitating it virtually and doing it a different way, but it's a different experience, and therefore that cultural experience of, I've got friends I go for a drink with after work. They've got to look in the eye if I don't do the right thing. I've got relationships with people that are senior within the business. I've got a good, track of progression here, where I can see the key people in the business see my value. Those things are maybe diluted right down, and therefore my attachment to the organisation emotionally is much lower.
Yeah. So I was just thinking about this in terms of, I was thinking back to, how do you educate people? How do you make them aware? Do you use anything like perk boxes? Like, is that something you do? They've got massive companies, a while ago, which is all about, the perks for your employees. And I guess this is the sort of thing as well, because whilst that individual that turned up when they didn't need to necessarily be there, they got dressed up smart, they made an effort, yes, you can pull them to one side and you can say thanks, but that doesn't educate the others that didn't turn up. And I'm just wondering, with those kind of perk boxes, someone arrives on a Monday morning or wherever they're next in, and there's that, I don't know, tray bake or cupcakes or whatever it is the perks are. Why did Sarah get that? Why didn't I get it? It's like, no, Sarah turned up for that. It was a big deal for us, so we just wanted to say thanks. But again, you don't want to cause friction within the team. Like someone's tucking into their cupcake, and they're like, no,
or they feel obliged to share it to be politically correct, and when they don't get any. So the answer is yes. My experience, and I will emphasize this, my experience, there's a platform like a Perkbox, or and I know them really well, and there are other brands out there, just to be clear.
But if they want to send us any cupcakes,
welcome. If you want to sponsor the podcast,
send us over a load of cupcakes.
So we actually did have a platform for a while, and we switched it off. And the reason for that was that the adoption was so low. Now, that is a slightly different scenario, where it is perks that you have for being an employee. Everyone gets them regardless. And we actually went as far as switching it off, and no one realized for a period of time, because nobody was utilizing the things that were available. So albeit a little while ago, from a product perspective, we weren't convinced that was adding value, and that was validated when we switched it off and no one realizes. So it's a nice to have. It's kind of a hey, we've got it, and oh great, they look after their employees. But actual usage and difference and impact was minimal. A couple of people took the free Greg's coffee once a week, and that was about it. So that bit, for me, isn't the answer, or isn't necessarily a tangible contributor. The bit that I think could be is your and this is one of the most powerful things I've done over the years, is your ad hoc gesture. So it's not a perk box or a platform. It's you as a human, like you've said, going, you know what, thank you. Here's a little something to say, well done, or thank you. That gesture in running a team in any environment goes such a long way. And I'll tell you one thing I did, and this is way back. I once took somebody in the business who'd done such a good job and gone so far above and beyond. I said to her, and this is totally spontaneous on my part, I said to her, do you know what? can we just go for a walk? I said, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to take you to John Lewis, £100, anything you want, pick it off the shelf and I'm buying it for you. She's like, what? It's like, literally, I'm just so impressed with what you've done. We're going now. We walked around to John Lewis, we'd buy John Lewis, walked around to John Lewis, and I can't even remember what she bought. I mean, we're going back to 2017. That gesture was £100, right? I could have gone and got her a £200 voucher, or I could have, salespeople getting commission checks of thousands of pounds around the world, every week, month, quarter, whatever. That little gesture of going and doing it with her, it being spontaneous and it being just based on immediate after doing something, went such a long way. Great. The downside, other people don't expect it. So all of a sudden, everyone's looking, going, when you take a meeting, you go, damn, why did I do a good thing? There's a downside to it. So you have to be so careful nowadays, because
that sounds like a slippery slope, that thing.
Like, yeah, it was very
I get it.
Very special.
Yeah, I get it. It's I don't I don't even do that with Liz.
Neither do I. I mean, not with Liz, obviously, but
yeah. But it's like,
but the point is,
like,
this particular person went so far beyond what I would expect.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to do something, and that, and in the grand scheme of things, I'd have happily spent £100 on buying her a present and thought about it for a week, and then it would have been late and delayed. The fact that it was instant, it was off the back of it, that was really valuable. And it caught them off guard. And you get emotional.
What did they get?
I think she bought a bag. I think she bought like a nice handbag. I'm trying to remember back to
Liz would definitely have hated it then. I've never gone handbag shopping with her. She'd be like, what? No chance.
Yeah, I mean, I waited in the background, you choose. But it's about what can you do. People aren't expecting it. They don't feel like they don't feel like they're entitled to it when you give it to them. I think you reach that point where if you start to do these things, people then come in and go, oh, where's my tray bake?
I think it's and that's a good way to educate people with these perks and with these niceties and everything else. Yeah. And I think that's the thing is it's got to happen straight away. I think if you look at it in hindsight, where you've been disappointed, I think you could argue, well, is that something that's missing outside of the culture, where they didn't know, they didn't understand because there hadn't been experiences like that before? Is it sort of saying now that actually, if a lesser client, I'm not saying there are lesser clients, because all your clients you're going to treat in the same way, but if it's someone else coming in, it's like, look, we've got a new client coming in, I'd like everyone to be there, and then that person that did have the delivery might be there on that day, and again, it's taken to one side. It's like, really appreciate it. It was so important that you were there today. So again, I think as business owners, I think sometimes the buck stops with us to make sure we're educating people, because I think I'm exactly the same as you, that you're like, that doesn't make sense. Why would you not do that? Why can you not understand that? Why can you not see how important this is? But I think unless we can look back and go, actually, they have been educated in the right way, and we have taught them, I guess, in the right way in terms of what we expect and what we appreciate. Because I think there's a difference, isn't there? There's an expectation and there's an appreciation. Expectation is you do what's on your job task list, your job role. That's my expectation of you. But there's also this other element of employment, which is the appreciation side. And it's funny because I'm thinking about it now, and I'll name drop Rena again. I said she was back. She's phenomenal at the stuff that she doesn't have to do, and there is no expectation from our side for her to do it. And that's the outside of hours stuff. Yeah. And it's not even the outside of hours stuff of, there's a water leak, someone's phoned Rena's in there, on the weekend or after work. That stuff's not expected, and again, very much appreciated. But it's also the stuff which is, some of the kind of bigger offices in the space. They'll go out for drinks, and Rena is part of that. She will go, like, she gets invited to drinks everywhere from the companies in the space. She's like, I'm off with Swanky, I'm off with Digilab, I'm off with Avalon, I'm off with Railway News. And she does do it, and she likes going out, she likes socializing, but she also knows how important the community is to the generator. So Rena, I appreciate you very much. But Jim and I and Liz, we probably don't do it enough. Like Liz does. Like Liz is always saying how much she appreciates Rena, but I don't think we do it enough in letting her know how much we appreciate those moments. So I think from our side, I think we've let ourselves down on that. Yeah, I think so. And it's I say it's setting up situations that are kind of like test beds for the big stuff. So when the big stuff does happen, people know exactly how important it is. And they also know that you appreciate them for doing it. Not that it's kind of like, I want you to do this because it's in the business. It's also the business really appreciates it. So I think whilst I was a bit like, oh, I should have turned up, I think I'm like, bad boss, Owen, bad boss.
Good, I like it, and it's good. It's good to be challenged, and hopefully you can tell from this. One of my things is like, am I thinking about this the right way? Having good people around you to challenge you and get you thinking at it from a different angle is really healthy. And it does help you empathize with somebody on the other side of a situation, whether that be a client, an employee, whatever. I think, look, what a wonderful place to finish with you saying how much you appreciate somebody in your team, and I think I'm inspired to go and get off this and go and tell someone how much I appreciate them and what they've done over the last few days. I think it's important that we remember to do that as leaders as well. So look, I think let's wrap up there. Rena, big shout out to you on behalf of Neil. He appreciates you.
I appreciate you. Just one other thing, perk box. If this does get to you, send some treats to Rena. She deserves them. And then that. No, I'm not going to pay for it. Perk box are good because I've mentioned them probably about 10 times. So if we've got like 5 people that have listened, 5 people that listen,
if you want in, you're in.
Reward Gateway. Okay, or just a local bakery, a local Exeter bakery, in Exeter that just wants to give Rena some cake. We'll give you a shout out at the next podcast as well, and I'll even bring one of the cakes along with me to show how beautiful they are.
Amazing. Neil, always a pleasure, as always. It's good fun. And thanks. And I'm going to go and think and go and appreciate someone right now.
Bye, buddy. See you later.